So Mike Peplow from BancTec. E-invoicing has been treated as a solution that really has been biased in favour to the buyer and has been weighted less favourably for the supplier. You talked in an earlier chapter about how BancPay doesn't really see a difference between the supplier and the buyer as such. It treats clients that will be using the BancPay platform as companies rather than buyers and suppliers. However, I would like us to spend a moment on how the BancPay platform is looking to address this imbalance, specifically on the supplier side. What is it about the BancPay solution that is very favourable for the supplier that maybe other providers in the market don't offer?
Well, sadly, I kind of agree with your comments there. I think to date, the industry has been weighted towards the bias of the buyer. And I think by buyer, what we mean is large buyers. And I think, as an industry, perhaps we've been a little guilty of focusing so much attention on large buyers in order to gain traction in the market, that what we've done is we've managed to gain a reputation as being a little one-sided, because a lot of the costs of implementing these types of systems have actually flowed down to the smaller companies, i.e. the suppliers. And I think what's happened is that's made the suppliers in the market a little reticent to get involved and a little nervous about getting involved. And I think the other thing that's done is it means that the systems, as they've developed over the years, have tended to develop in favor of functionality that exists to help the buyer and not the supplier. And I think what we're trying to do in BancPay is to say, look, we want a pretty neutral platform. We want everybody to be able to send and receive all different types of invoices, whether they be paper or EDI. We want everybody to be able to establish and grow their network. We don't believe in a closed view of the world. We believe in an open view of the world. We want to be able to use BancPay to allow the SME providers a very secure but very low-cost portal into interoperability agreements so that they can gain access and trade on the same level as the larger companies in the market. We want to provide the same level of security and audit regardless of who uses the system. In some ways, if larger companies make a mistake or have a shock, they're better able to recover from that. Whereas a small business, if you have a major shock or a major trading incident, it can be very difficult to recover from. So, we think it's even more important that the BancPay platform offers the sort of resilience and security to the SME market as it does to the larger companies. So what we're trying to do is take a neutral approach to the market. We understand that large corporates are going to want different pieces of functionality, and we'll cater for that. But the core BancPay product should be simple and easy to use, regardless of whether you're a AP clerk in a large corporation or a single sole trader on the train into Waterloo trying to catch up on your invoices on your iPhone. You should be able to do all of that simply and easily.
Mm-hmm. So, Mike, you talked about BancPay being an open platform. So just to get an affirmation on that, if you would, this means, I'm assuming, therefore, that you will be having interoperability agreements with the other e-invoicing providers out there. Is that correct?
That's correct. We are a tremendous supporter of open standards in general, and we really do think as an industry it would be great if we could get, true interoperability working at a practical level. Now, at the moment, we have BancPay running up in our Nordic operations, and we've been running up there for several months now before our full release in June. And we've already got the interoperability agreements in place, and we're already exchanging through those interoperability agreements with our other partners in the market. So I think, again, for the benefit of the whole industry, we've got to make those interoperability agreements work in a practical sense, not just an academic sense.
So I just would like to talk to you about the subject of pricing. BancTec is much larger than a lot of other e-invoicing providers out there, a company that can boast 1,800 clients globally. And this means that financially you can afford to charge a little less on the supplier side if needed to accelerate your supplier adoption. So I'm curious to know what the financial model is for the supplier side and the buyer side, if you don't mind me using the terminology of supplier and buyer rather than company.
I'd be delighted you can use that terminology. Let me say first of all, that when BancTec comes into the market, when we make a decision to enter a new market, we do not do so lightly. We do it on the back of a huge amount of research, much of it primary research. We talk to our customers. We've been planning to enter into this market now for a couple of years. We've built some systems, we've trialed them. Quite frankly, we threw away some of the earlier prototypes and started again. And what you see now is the result of several $1 million worth of investment. We're here for the long term. Our current program, which is a multi-million-dollar spend, goes out for the next couple of years. We can see that far ahead, and we're committed to this as an entire organization. What we're doing is we're trying to create a pricing model that helps the market. So we have decided that we price on a company basis, I'm afraid to say, and we have decided to adopt a subscription model. And for many companies, using BancPay will actually be free. If you use up to 10 transactions a month, then it's free of charge. If you go on beyond that and say up to 100 transactions a month, we charge 20 euros. So, that's 20 cents euros a transaction. If you go up to, say, 1,000 transactions a month, then we charge 100 euros. So that's 10 cents per transaction. So what we're trying to do is make this absolutely affordable to everybody in the market. Now, there's some things around BancPay that aren't in the subscription. I mean, if you want us to do, bulk scanning, it's one of our centers around the world, then we're happy to do that, and obviously the price of scanning an invoice depends on where you are and what you want to take off that invoice. But, on average, it's going to be about 35 cents euro. That's the kind of average you're going to see around the markets. In Europe, certainly a little lower in the Americas. But you can see with this pricing model that, we're not in for a short-term win. We're here for the long term. We are determined to help this market grow. And we think that's going to be good for everybody in the market, both the competitors, the large corporates, the SMEs, the banks. Everybody wants to see this market move forward and gain momentum.
Mm-hmm. Let's just talk about the investment that you've made. Clearly, you are very serious about this. You're here for the long term. So I'd be interested to know a little bit more about the resource and the skill sets that you've got to basically make the BancPay platform happen. And what I'm really alluding to there is the supplier onboarding capabilities. There are some networks out there that are very, very clear and specific about the onboarding expertise that they have to recruit suppliers. What's your view on this? Is the recruitment of suppliers something that you will proactively go and do, and you've got resource and capabilities internally to do that? And if so, what do your onboarding teams look like within BancTec for the BancPay solution?
Here's where BancTec can, really excel. First of all, we've designed BancPay so it shouldn't need a huge amount of know-how to register. We've had sole traders come on and register in the system and be up and running in 15 minutes. So it's a very, very straightforward process. So really the onboarding is about attracting people to register. Now, we work with our clients to do so. And what we're able to do with our reach, either in the Americas or here in Europe, is that we can have an onboarding team in your specific country. So, if you're in France, Germany, Sweden, UK, we've got an onboarding team in that country that can onboard in local language, is cognizant of the local regulatory environment and the local customs. So we can do that in a sympathetic way. We can take a pan-European requirement and split it up so we react well in the local markets. We've invested quite heavily in the onboarding process and technology. We actually use a product called Salesforce.com to do the onboarding side, which is a product that we use in our sales areas. And we find that a really effective way of managing the whole onboarding cycle. So I think our first response is we want people to join this system because they really want to join the system, that they're getting recommendations from their customers, their buyers, their suppliers, the people they go down the pub with on a night are saying, hey, take a look at this system, it's a really good one. The great thing is because registration's straightforward and because it's kind of free to start, then, go try it, test out the claims. If you think they're valid, keep using it. If you don't, then, it hasn't cost you an investment.
So, Mike, it sounds like for the lower volume suppliers, it's going to be a very straightforward onboarding exercise. I just want to come on to the slightly higher volume suppliers that maybe have they've got their own billing system. They probably don't want to go onto a portal and rekey in what they've keyed into their billing system. Can you just talk me through how you cater for those kinds of suppliers and what technically is involved for those higher volume suppliers to be able to export a file via the BancPay platform?
All right, yeah, that's a good point. The integration, I think, back into ERP systems, it has been a bit of a major blocker in the market, but I think it's getting a little more straightforward. Let's deal with the spectrum of the market. First of all, for the real small guy, as you said, you can just key in a web form. Dead easy, anyone could do it. We're also going to provide a print driver down so that people that are on smaller systems can just basically, instead of sending an invoice to the printer, can send it straight into BancPay and we can send it on from there. For the larger businesses like BancTec, quite frankly, where we're using systems like SAP, there is always going to be a little bit of bespoke requirement, we think, because certainly in our experience, I'm afraid, no two SAP systems are the same. So there'll always be need for some specific consultancy and some specific integration. Fortunately, this is where we can call upon our 40 years of development and design knowledge to help make sure that works really smoothly and again, it doesn't become a cost barrier to somebody joining the system. I think we should also consider, though, that invoices coming into the system are equally important. And here what we can do is we can offer, as a standard within BancPay, an easy approval system. But we can also, with our partners Palette, offer a more complex approval system. And the beauty of using products like Palette is that they've got really good integration capability back into the ERP system, and they really can make a huge productivity difference to major corporate users. But I'll also come back, if you just want to use easy approval and you just want to push out a comma delimited file or an Excel file, we're quite happy to do that, and that's built in as standard in the system. We really have tried to think very carefully about how we make BancPay just very easy to work with from the technical perspective, from a user perspective, and from an organization perspective.
So, Mike, you've clearly got a lot of resource within BancTec itself. It's a hugely established company. It's got a very impressive turnover. How many of those people would you say are tooled up, trained up, ready to go on assisting suppliers in their onboarding experience?
Okay, well, what we're doing first of all is we're starting up in the Nordic and UK areas. Nordic has actually been up and running now since pretty much the start of the year, and we're going to be starting the UK from June when we launch at the World Cloud Forum. What we'll be doing then is rolling out down through the rest of Europe, particularly Germany and France, in October this year. So by the end of the year, we're going to have dedicated onboarding teams available in pretty much all our European centres. And then early next year, we're going to launch in the Americas, and we will then have a dedicated onboarding capability over in the US. Now, it's kind of worth bearing in mind that, we're already processing, over 10 million invoices a year, and we're already taking invoices in from, several 100,000 different types of companies across the world. So it's not as if we don't have a bit of experience in this area. And when you add to that 21 processing centres around the world, and almost 1,500 staff every day of the week processing work on behalf of some of the largest companies in the world, I think we're in a pretty good position to help people move into e-invoicing.
It sounds like that is the case. Thank you.